Right now, this exact second, someone is watching you. Not through your window, but through your phone. And here's the twist that should terrify you. You invited them in. What if I told you that Stalin's surveillance state and Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook are playing the exact same game? What if the only difference between Big Brother and Big Tech is that one uses fear and the other uses convenience? I'm about to show you something that will change how you see every notification, every free app, every targeted ad. Because the question isn't whether you're being watched. The question is, who's profiting from it? Welcome to Dialectic Mind. Today, we're tackling one of the most urgent philosophical questions of our time. How do both totalitarianism and capitalism exploit and destroy privacy? And who benefits? By the end of this video, you'll understand how surveillance works under tyranny and free markets, who profits from your data, and why they don't want you to notice, what philosophers like Foucault and Marx predicted about this. But first, let me ask you something. When was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts? No phone, no notifications, no invisible audience judging your every move? Can't remember? That's not an accident. See, privacy isn't about hiding your browser history or covering your webcam. Though you should probably do both. Privacy is something much more fundamental. It's the space where you become yourself. Think of it like this. You're an actor. Your public life is the performance, but backstage, you remove the mask. You practice lines, you make mistakes, you're vulnerable. Privacy is your backstage. It's where dangerous thoughts happen, where you experiment with who you might become. John Stuart Mill understood this 150 years ago. He warned about the tyranny of social opinion, how society's judgment could be more oppressive than any government law. His rule was simple. The sole end for which mankind are warranted in interfering with the liberty of action of any of their number is to prevent harm to others. But here's what Mill couldn't predict. What happens when that interference becomes invisible? When you don't even know you're being watched? Enter Michel Foucault and the most terrifying philosophical concept you've never heard of. Picture this. A circular prison where guards can watch every prisoner, but prisoners can't see the guards. The genius? Prisoners never know when they're being watched, so they assume they're always being watched. Welcome to the Panopticon, and congratulations, you're living in it. Foucault realized something chilling. Surveillance doesn't just watch you, it changes you. When you might be watched, you start policing yourself. You internalize the watcher. This is happening to you right now. Every time you hesitate before posting something. Every time you wonder if your boss might see your Instagram story. Every time you feel that invisible audience judging your choices. That's the Panopticon effect. You become your own prison guard. But here's where it gets really disturbing. At least old-fashioned dictators were honest about their surveillance. East Germany's Stasi employed one informant for every 6 citizens. Neighbors watching neighbors. Children reporting parents. The goal was simple: eliminate privacy entirely. Why? Because privacy breeds dangerous thoughts. Private conversations become conspiracies. Private spaces become resistance headquarters. Hannah Arendt, who fled Nazi Germany, saw this clearly. The ideal condition for mob rule is the absence of any public sphere where people are isolated from one another and lose their capacity for political action. George Orwell wasn't writing fiction in 1984, he was doing philosophy. Big Brother represented the complete abolition of the private self. But here's the thing about totalitarian surveillance. At least it was honest. They told you they were watching. They used fear, force, obvious control. Modern capitalism? It's far more sophisticated. Forget Big Brother. Meet Big Data, and it doesn't want to scare you. It wants to seduce you. The genius of surveillance capitalism isn't force, it's consent. They don't steal your data. They convince you to give it away. For convenience. For personalization. For free services. After all, if a dictator demanded your location history, you'd revolt. But when Google asks, you shrug and hit accept. Karl Marx wrote about how capitalism alienates workers from their labor. But what we're seeing now is even more profound. Capitalism is alienating you from your own experience. Every emotion becomes a data point. Every desire becomes a commodity. Every moment of boredom becomes an opportunity for optimization. Shoshana Zuboff calls this surveillance capitalism, and she's identified something crucial. This isn't just about advertising. It's about behavior modification. Netflix doesn't just recommend what you should watch. It shapes what you want to watch. Google doesn't just predict your searches. It influences what you think to search for. Facebook doesn't just show you news. It decides what reality you live in. Your preferences aren't being discovered. They're being manufactured. So who wins when your privacy dies? The answer reveals the hidden power structure of our time. First, the obvious winners. Google, Facebook, Amazon. Trillion-dollar empires built on your personal data. They've created what Marx would call primitive accumulation. But instead of stealing land, they're stealing your inner life. Second, the subtle winners. Existing power structures. When everyone's behavior is predictable, when resistance can be anticipated and neutralized, that serves anyone who benefits from the status quo. A surveilled population is a controlled population, not through force, but through something far more effective, making resistance seem pointless. Third, the most disturbing winner, your own complacency. When you're constantly watched, you stop taking risks. You stop experimenting. You stop becoming. You become what Foucault called a docile body, easier to handle, easier to predict, easier to control. But let's dig deeper. What does this mean for human nature itself? Jean-Paul Sartre said we are condemned to be free, that our freedom to choose who we become is both our greatest burden and our greatest gift. But what happens to that freedom when every choice is monitored, recorded, and used to influence your next choice? When algorithms know you better than you know yourself, you stop being a free agent. You become a behavioral commodity. Your spontaneity, your unpredictability, your capacity for growth, all flattened into data points. This is what Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil. Evil doesn't always announce itself dramatically. Sometimes it's just the quiet erosion of what makes us human, one data point at a time. This is why privacy isn't just political or technological. It's existential. Without space to be uncertain, to experiment, to become who you're not yet, we lose something essential about being human. We become what Herbert Marcuse called one-dimensional man, humans who've lost the capacity to imagine alternatives. Edward Snowden risked everything to expose government surveillance, but he didn't stop there. He also warned us about surveillance capitalism. As he puts it, arguing that you don't care about privacy because you have nothing to hide is like saying you don't care about free speech because you have nothing to say. But here's Snowden's most chilling observation. No system of mass surveillance has existed in any society that has not been abused. Not government systems. Not corporate systems. None. The man who sacrificed his freedom to warn us about Big Brother is now warning us about big tech's same surveillance. Same control. Different logo. But here's what gives me hope. Recognizing this is the first step toward resistance. When you understand that privacy isn't about hiding embarrassing photos, when you understand that privacy is about preserving the space where freedom happens, then protecting it becomes an act of philosophical rebellion. Every time you choose not to share, every time you opt out, every time you create space for dangerous thoughts and authentic becoming, that's not just personal protection. That's philosophical resistance. The Panopticon only works if you participate. The Matrix only controls you if you stay plugged in. So here's my question. If privacy is the space where you become who you truly are, what does it mean for society when that space disappears? And more importantly, what are you willing to do to preserve it? Drop a comment right now. What's one way you're going to protect your privacy this week? Are you ready to opt out of the Panopticon? If this video changed how you think about privacy and power, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're building a community of people who refuse to accept one-dimensional thinking about human existence. Share this with someone who needs to see it. Because the revolution starts when people wake up. Keep questioning, keep thinking, and most importantly, keep becoming.